We were talking about like ranking factors and like Google. You were talking like basically sometimes your clients just want to focus on ranking factors because that's what Google talks about. Right. And yet everybody talks about DA and it's not a Google ranking factor. It just drives me insane. But I guess because Google's fault for creating PR in the first place. Yeah. But first, a quick message from our sponsor. Finding a good SEO partner that specializes in content marketing can be hard. Since 1999, Internet Marketing Ninjas has built its reputation on SEO and content marketing strategies. Internet Marketing Ninjas is run by Jim Boykin. I've known Jim for close to 20 years now. He's been a very hands-on SEO, he's a very hands-on CEO as well, and he's built a great team at the Internet Marketing Ninjas. From what I hear, their clients are very happy with them too. The Internet Marketing Ninjas could also help you with your core web vitals and page experience update. They're very hands-on with that. They'll make the changes for you, not just provide the audit. So check them out at internetmarketingninjas.com. All right, moving on. Authorship. You mentioned that. I miss authorship because I used to like when my face was shown for every SEO when they had a search on any SEO topic. It was my face there because I write a lot of spam about SEO. How does Google figure out authorship now? You mentioned a little bit about entities and profile pages and so forth.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on how do you structure your authorship so that your author pages so that they kind of build this authorship on your profile?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to add on to this, but if it's me, the advice I would give a client is, have your experts writing on a topic. So if it's a topic on X pharmaceutical, you might want your PharmD expert writing on that. If it's sore throat content, you might want your ear, nose, and throat doctor, like being that author or being that expert in that case. I think for me, the first and foremost, again, I would have all of those signals transparently on the page itself. And then, as a added bell and a whistle, I would go in and mark up the pages with author schema. What they're an expert in, where they attended school, what their degree is in. I think you can actually do that now with, am I allowed to say that? Yoast, the premium version of Yoast has some new capabilities for that. But yeah, that's how I would go about it to start anyway.
Yeah, I think that's like all really great stuff. We're getting pretty, you have to get kind of creative with this whole authorship thing because it's not enough to just have the name. It's really like listing niche expertise. And we also now are like recommending a lot more with making individual pages that are indexable and linking off to other places they've been mentioned online, or as Jason Barnard says, giving them a home for the knowledge graph. Because if you're in the knowledge graph, you can see the little globe that links to the place that Google associates you as an entity, which can be like your homepage or your about page or whatever. So we like to give authors a home, their own URL.
Makes me wonder, how much does Google use a knowledge graph? They probably use a knowledge graph for authorship purposes a lot, I would think. But I wonder about how it uses a knowledge graph for determining if something is accurate or not. Not that Google says all the time, we're not here to say what the truth is. We're here to show you search results that you search that are relevant to what your query is. Yeah. So even if they search for something that's completely invalid, but there are theories that might be valid, Google wants to show it. But how does Google, in the YMYL EAT case, use? I don't know if I wouldn't think that. Maybe they do, but I'm not such a strong believer that they use the knowledge graph information to determine if a piece of content is accurate or not. It makes sense that they could. Yeah. I don't think they do for some reason. I could be wrong, and nobody would tell me if I'm wrong or right, so it doesn't matter. But
I think that they're pretty elusive about answering these questions because it does raise a lot of ethical questions. Yeah. But when you Google any medical symptom, there's a Google symptom knowledge graph that's driven by the Mayo Clinic and Harvard and other medical authorities. So it makes you wonder. I mean, they can clearly pull up facts in that knowledge panel. So what are they doing with it? Yeah.
But then by doing that, they might not rank some type of content, which they don't want to. I guess, I don't know. Yeah, it's a very controversial topic. One thing is, it was a Twitter chat yesterday about a site removing a lot of the historical content because it's no longer relevant and so forth. And I responded, I'm not going to go ahead and delete, at least for my site, I'm not going to go ahead and delete the history of the search marketing space because Google's not, because just in order for Google to rank me better. I'm not going to delete that content. Obviously, I can no index it if I want to. What are your thoughts about the issue, like you mentioned, duplicate sites that come to you, they have a lot of duplicate content because they wrote an article about hand sanitizer, back in 2001, and then they had to write it again about multiple times when COVID happened. because obviously people talking about sanitizer. They have 50 articles about hand sanitizer over the course of the site's 20-year history. Do you tell them to delete that content? What do you tell them to do?
I mean, if you have 50 different unique angles on hand sanitizer, I'd say keep them. But yeah, I mean, if you have, content themes that can be consolidated into one overarching, comprehensive, updated piece of content, then I would go ahead and do that. So not just deleting a link and redirecting content, but actually migrating content themes, over to enhance that content, I think is a really healthy exercise. So not only duplicative, but low performing. Like typically there are ways to clean that up, and that's been one of the more successful tactics for us this year, is cleaning up, that type of low performing duplicative content. It's typically thin, it's outdated, maybe not relevant to this like post-COVID world where everything's kind of changed. So yeah, I'm all about it. We take a pretty aggressive approach, with eliminating or redirecting content. Looking at all the X factors too, like backlinks and those types of variables. But I think in some cases we can clean 20-30% of a site up, eliminating it and redirecting it into more comprehensive type pages.
And we have like reports that Paul and his team build specifically to showcase the results of these efforts, and like it's always like, wow, like 2 + 2 is more than 4.
Yeah.
Like it's like you always see a huge uptick when you combine 2 pieces of content or more.
Or 15 into 1
right,
in some cases.
Right.
So I don't do SEO consulting, but I imagine what you probably do is you do some type of site command or some type of tool to figure out these are all the articles on hand sanitizer on the website. Here are all the URLs. We need to go ahead and create a master page that summarizes all this content, decide which URLs we're going to keep as extensions to that page. Like you have your hub page and then whatever you want to extend out, and which ones you're going to go ahead and either 301 back to the main new hub page, or is that's the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you can use a handful of tools to look at, first place I might start is looking at for content that's ranking for the same keyword. So is there content that's cannibalizing itself? And if so, I'd look into those opportunities. So in those cases where you have cannibalized content, you might have an article from 2019 and an article from 2020 addressing the same topic. In that case, you might make a case to consolidate that.
Yeah, overlapping content.
Yeah. So one thing that I find somewhat hypocritical, or maybe oxymoronic, or something like that from Google, is that they're telling us to, well, they're not really telling us to do this, but they're telling us through the search results to do this, basically create really deep, in-depth articles. Yeah. And that's what they're ranking. Of course, John Mueller's like, no, we rank short content. But really, they don't tend to rank short content unless it's a very obscure keyword.
Yeah.
But yet, when Google surfaces that information in the search results, they show a featured snippet with just the little piece that the searcher wants. Because they know people don't want to read. People aren't going to click over to the article and read it.
Right.
Google wants to summarize it because they know people aren't going to read it. So kind of find it funny that Google does that, where they're like, give us the most detailed piece of content, but yet we're only going to show what people want to see, which is a small little 3-line,
Right, and jump you to that section of the page. But that's kind of what's fun about it, is like they don't necessarily need a unique URL for each one of those content blocks anymore, because they have new technology, and to be able to jump, in Chrome directly to that piece of content and highlight that piece of content. And then obviously jump links are like one of the biggest things we recommend for sites, just table of contents or anchor links, just different ways to navigate the content. So I think that the two things are not mutually exclusive, to be able to pull featured snippet text and then to have one dedicated content hub.
Cool. All right, so I think we covered how to fix a website and the, view, I think we covered it. Obviously depend on the specific site, and they should obviously hire you, and they'll give you 10% off if you use the coupon.
See if that's true.
Click the link, and then, the old days where you actually had to click that link, go to this thing, click on that ad, and then click on another ad, download this malware, and then you get a discount.
Make sure the malware is part of the process.
Anyway, the time to recover, you mentioned, I think we were talking, could be 6 months, it could be 2 core updates, it could be a lifetime.
Yeah,
could be a lifetime.
That depends, right? We've seen cases where between core updates, we'll see big spikes. We may not be back to where we were, say, like post-Medic or pre-Medic, but It might take 1 or 2 core updates, if not longer, to see rebounds. But then there are other cases too, right, where you're seeing gradual kind of increases as things are rolled out. And I think the content consolidations is a good chunk of that, because you do that work and you do see increases, and that helps chip away, at that gap, I've found. But yeah, it could take months, and again, I think that's something that right off the bat with our clients who have core algorithm issues, we have to address, kind of upfront.
The timing, takes a long time. But lately there's been some movement, like the product review update seems to have impacted some sites the way that core algorithm updates can. And some other weird movement in the last few weeks too.
There's been a lot of, in May, we're recording this in May, at the end of May, so there's been a lot of unconfirmed updates, some massive ones, and Google's just being mum about it.
Yeah.
Get that right, mum about it, mum.
Just dropped a mum.
Nice. Dropping a mum. It's interesting because they have all these updates, but yet it seems like the core updates, while they used to happen every 3-4 months, now they're happening every 6 to 9 months in the past.
Yeah.
Do you think it's not? You think they're just not confirming them as often? Because Danny's like, no, whenever there's a core update, a broad core update, not a core update, a broad core update, they're going to go ahead and confirm it. But it seems like they've been doing these small ones, and maybe it's product review related, but it seems to be, some of them seem beyond that.
Well, COVID's really slowed things down. I think that they even said we're not planning to do a big update, and then they did, right? Like and the May core update was obviously during COVID. But then, since that point, it's been December, and I guess that's it. 2 in 2020.
Yeah, we haven't
Nothing
had
this year.
Not yet.
Product review update. But
do you have like a clock, like a countdown of when the last core update was, like a little clock on the wall?
We have PTSD from the medic update. We went through that together.
That was big. I got a lot of flack from the SEO industry for calling it the medic industry.
I call it that all the time. So thank you for calling it that.
Oh my God, that was like, how dare you call it the medic update? My site my e-commerce site that sells, shoes that have good soles for your feet is not a medical website, but it's like,
it's a medical website. Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the types of sites that you guys focus on are mostly in the YMYL space.
Yeah, primarily.
Lately. Before that, we do a lot of different verticals at AMSIV, but the type of work we're getting lately is people that have been hit by core updates.
Do you ever get a client like, oh my God, this is going to be an easy one to solve? It's usually not in the YMYL category, right? But do you ever get these clients who are like, oh, this is simple.
Like a technical issue or something?
I don't know. Like they come, I have all these issues, they sign a contract for $1 billion, and you're like, all right, you have to put an hour of work into it, and you just made $1 billion on your ROI.
It's nice when that happens.
I think there was some market reaction to COVID with e-commerce, right? Where people were forced to do a lot more shopping online. So I would frame that as we positioned ourselves well to take advantage of increased market interest during COVID. But no, I think in most cases, there's quick win opportunities all the time, sure, but I think.
Or a technical issue. Yeah. Technical issue, site migration. There's some things that move much more quickly than core updates.
Yeah, I remember having a phone call with a massive Fortune 500 company with their SEO team, and they couldn't figure it out for months and months why a certain subsite of theirs was not ranking in Google. Yeah. I look with it, I rarely do any SEO consults, but they were pleading with me. I'm like, sure, I won't look at the site beforehand. They get on the call, they do a Zoom or something. I look at the source code and there's like a no index on it.
Nice.
I'm like,
gold mine. Seriously, love when that happens.
A team of like 10 SEOs. I'm like,
seriously?
What are you doing?
How many SEOs does it take to find a good index?
That's the last thing people look for, right?
That's the first thing we look for.
Oh yeah, I love when that happens. Everyone's always like, isn't it just like a quick fix of what you guys work on? I'm like, I wish it was a quick fix.
Add this meta tag, rank me number 1, and you're good to go. But it's funny because like in the old days, like in 2005, it was like the Sandbox update. And you would like launch a new website that sells the most obscure thing. I don't know, blue air conditioners that nobody searches for. And it's the only website that sells it. You do a search for blue air conditioners, the site wouldn't come up because it was stuck in the Sandbox. You don't really have that problem anymore. But it's just...
Was that confirmed that was an actual thing? No, like sandboxing. I thought that was like a myth.
Google somewhat confirmed it at some point, and they denied confirming it. It was just an algorithm that basically the site had to earn trust.
Right.
And the way they did that took a long time, even if it was a new site. And even for the most obscure... Like now you can launch a website for the most obscure keyword, and it will rank. But if you created a website back then for some weird phrase that didn't exist, you would not rank for like until they fixed whatever they adjusted the algorithm.
Yeah.
So I think it did exist. They didn't call it obviously the Sandbox. Yeah, we don't have enough. We don't call anything the Sandbox internally. But I don't know. Anything else that's top of mind that you think you want to talk about to put you on the spot?
I mean, my big thing lately has been making sure. So just going back to content quality, right? Making sure that it's timely and it's relevant. I mentioned earlier that we're living in this post-COVID world, and I think your content needs to reflect that, especially in the medical space, right? Who knows what certain conditions might mean years from now, the people affected by COVID. So I think anything we do really from a content quality perspective, we're looking at, is this really relevant to the here and now? Even your imagery, for instance, is your imagery including like a group of people sitting around a table like this, like 6 months ago? Like probably not. Maybe you want like massed individuals and like something that resonates more, with the here and now. So that's been top of mind for me, and something we kind of weave into a lot of our, addressing core algorithm and work. So,
yeah, I think that's like a really good kind of overarching strategic view of how we approach most of our clients these days. Like instead of hyper obsessing over ranking factors, this is going to get me in trouble. Like we think beyond that. We think about usability, user experience, how people are engaging with photos and things that can't necessarily be quantified unless you're using UX testing software, But doing that consistently produces good SEO results in one way or another.
If I'm an SEO watching this right now, the trick to rank well is to make sure to have images with people wearing masks. That's a ranking factor.
Well, now that we're vaccinated, maybe not, but maybe 6 months ago,
exactly. that ranking factor.
That's a ranking
the
factor.
weight has just been adjusted to lower.
Exactly.
I'm fairly sarcastic, so I apologize. Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, user experience and stuff like that, Google keeps promoting that, but yet when you ask them, do they use that as a ranking factor in terms of, pogo sticking, dwell time, interactivity on the website, they say, no, we don't use Google Analytics data or Chrome data for those purposes.
But for Core Web Vitals, they do.
For Core Web, that's the funny thing.
Come on.
They clear Crux data.
Literally
use it.
That's how they're using it.
So do you think
debatable?
You think one day they're gonna be like, yeah, we lied, we use all this stuff, we use Google Analytics and stuff?
Do I think that they're gonna admit that they lied? No.
Yes.
Do I think they're using it? Yes, of course. That's my perspective.
Yeah, I fall into that boat too.
So you're both calling John Mueller, Danny Sullivan, the old Matt Cotts liars.
Yeah, the PR people. Come on. Not liars.
Do you think they know?
Yeah. Come on. I mean.
Why won't they say then? What's your theory?
Because they don't want people manipulating the algorithm or manipulating how things work. They don't want click farms trying to influence a site's ranking by hiring 1 million people to click on something. Like, there's clear reasons why you would say certain things to the public that are not.
We're good at that as SEOs.
Yeah, we like to spam everything. So.
Right. All right. I mean, that's why direct hit is no longer around, because they used to use click data for ranking. If a site got more clicks, it should rank higher.
Yeah.
And Google said, no, it's a fuzzy data and easy to manipulate, but you saying they just don't tell us they're using it.
That's my opinion.
Got it.
I mean, I fall into that camp for sure.
Okay, no, funny, I would say probably most of the people that I asked that question to on this show, whatever you want to call it.
The Barry Show?
The Barry Show. It's not a new show. Basically say the same thing. They think that Google uses.
It would be silly for them not to.
Cool. All right. Thank you for coming and for doing this. I appreciate it. Risking your lives seeing me, especially driving through to see you.
Beautiful New York.
Deers or bears in the way. How could people learn more about you and your company? I don't know who wants to start. But.
Yeah, I mean, you can start by going to amsterddigital.com. Checking us out. There's a lot of great content on there, spanning all manner of topics. On the Insight blog, of course, Lily does a lot of speaking events. I think you have a few coming up. So yeah, we're all over the place.
How do they follow you personally? Are you on Twitter? Are you on TikTok?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Canonical Paul. You can find me there. And then obviously at Lily Ray. NYC, is it?
Lily Ray NYC. Yeah, I kind of speak for the team on Twitter a lot of the time.
Exactly. My presence is much smaller, obviously.
We'll work on that. Canonical
Paul.
Paul.
You're not on TikTok or Instagram. What's the cool one? Clubhouse.
Yeah, you do all those things.
You are. People ask if I'm on TikTok. I don't think I have a TikTok.
Oh, I definitely don't have a TikTok. I need to work on that though.
Yes, you're gonna get some lessons there. Cool. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Barry.